to say this has always been a beautiful part of Delgany. This is I just remember Nurse McGee worked in here. Was it Nurse McGee?
Well, back in the 60s, when I was a young boy, this was the dispensary.
Right.
And Nurse McGee lived here.
I remember her.
She was some character, and
Yeah.
she reared 4 daughters.
Nice.
Joan, Collect, Breda and Sarah.
Right.
And poor old Sarah died at 29. She was a qualified nurse.
Right.
And Joan, the eldest daughter, she ended up a matron in Belfast in the north.
I'm sure her mother would love that.
Well, they're all gone. And Dan, Nurse McGee's husband, was he was a farmer up in Callery.
Right.
And they used to come down visit her sometimes on the tractor. He leave the tractor here.
Right.
But Nurse McGee, she was from Inniscarty in Wexford, but she was some character of the village.
Ah, brilliant.
And all killing Carrick people and local people. She was a Jubilee nurse.
All right.
So she delivered quite a lot of babies in her time, you know.
I do remember now as a kid. I'm not trying to unearth it. I know we have a lovely photograph of her right here, just at the entrance of Bradshaw's on a Honda 50. We should mention, of course, all these poor people who can't walk, who have to park right outside the. It's a dreadful condition.
Well, it's not as bad.
A lot of Christy Brown people here.
And that was my mother's house.
Yeah, we had a glimpse of that before. The great Bradshaws live up there. And,
my mother lived there. That's a young girl.
We're coming to the Delgany Inn now, of course.
Sweeney's.
We call it the Delgany Inn. It's now.
Yeah, well, it's Sweeney's.
Sweeney's originally, right?
There were 2 sisters back in the 60s owned it.
Right.
And it was a hotel.
Okay.
And quite popular.
Well, do you know what? I did read, just before I came down here, I read that it was called the Delgany Hotel. It was on the grounds of Stylebond over here, which we've been to before.
The old
Stylebond house. And there's also an 1860 ad in Heffernan's Handbook. And the proprietor then in 1860 was J. Fitzsimon, who was just sort of, in the ad, was sort of saying how great his place was, and they were refurbishing. And in the original state, it was a thatched roof on it too. I just so managed to find that out. But a building that I would be very kind of, it's like a landmark for me growing up, and certainly during those 70s especially, it was just packed every year. It was just one of the most popular.
Marvellous.
Yeah.
As I say, when I mentioned it before, the beagling every Sunday.
Right.
And they'd either go from here or they'd go to a point up in Callery or somewhere.
Right.
And then they come back after. The village would be packed.
Yeah.
All the roads would be cars up to where I live. And they'd be out sitting on mostly students at the time.
I do remember many of a lazy afternoon spent sitting over at the wall over there where we can see the cars having turned. The public seats are gone, but that was a regular.
As you can see now, it's a bakery.
Yeah. Yes, and an award-winning bakery, we should say. A beautiful bakery. It does incredibly. I pass here with Max in the mornings, and
breakfast,
the queues, it does incredibly well. It's a beautiful place.
A restaurant upstairs now, Paul.
Right. I know it seems to be doing.
And as you know, we met the gentleman here. I met him. What's his name?
he was from the Paul Hollywood from the Great British Bake Off. He shot a.
I asked him. I met him and I said to him, do you play any sport? No, he's into fast cars.
Right. Well, the wealthy often are.
Quite a nice. I think they're gone to HTV now, isn't it?
Well, they're gone to Channel 4, and he's the only one from the original. Yeah. He's Mutiny. All the others have said they won't travel away from the BBC.
Right.
He's the only one who's agreed to go with this new. I think it's like 65 million sterling the Channel 4 paid for the rights to be able to take over it, because it's a hugely popular show. But the fact that it's now on Channel 4 may make people feel different about it. It may feel like Top Gear or whatever. That's no longer the real deal.
Right.
We have done the course. We're passing by the graveyard here, which we've covered before. Lovely lines, a couple of those tours there, which again I'll relink on the piece itself. But would you have spent many a day? There's my favourite hangout spot as a kid.
Seats there for the village, but it's kind of quite dangerous as
the seats
crossing.
Crossing,
not really, but the way the traffic has developed over the years.
Sure.
And as we see now on the corner, that's the old rectory.
Now, when I think about this is my brother Charlie, who had Charlie's shop. He lived here for about 10 years as a caretaker.
Yeah.
Beautiful building, 4 stories really.
Yeah.
There's a floor below surface, ground level, 3 above.
As well. That was an old rectory.
Now, when you say the rectory, was that where the priest lived?
The vicar.
The vicar had like that mansion. Holy moly.
And then in the 70s, the Mullen family.
Yes, so I remember the Mullins, the Americans. He made his, Mr. Mullen made his fortune on, he never would reveal, but he made something simple like the paper clip. That was it then. He
right, in Chicago. And as we observed there, see the outbuildings. Right. For the hearses, for the funerals.
Right. I should say this lovely house here around the bend. I do remember one wonderful evening. I was babysitting right opposite on the other side of that gate. Right. Down at the furthest point is where my brother lived. He gave me the Mullins had given him this catapult, a tubular kind of plastic. It just shot like a demon. So I at night was bored, was shooting to try and hit this gate, and noticed that some of the shots weren't hitting the gate. And then the man who was living here came storming around. They'd been flying through his window. He was almost getting shot. He had to go down the floor and make a run for it to get out the door before he got hit.
But as I say, that was the old Red Cross back. Right, now, as we're going up now.
This also, we should mention, Noel Belton told me, this used to be at Mrs. Fahey. This was also, the Touche built this as a kind of a parish hall. There was a billiard room in there, there was a library. So this whole building was once kind of a community building.
Yeah.
It's kind of lovely to think. The Touche has certainly cared for
and the Red Cross.
The town.
And the Red Cross.
Right, there you go.
But as we approach now, the Wicklow Arms, quite famous.
Yes. Yeah.
When I was young, Mr. O'Mara had it. Barry O'Mara, and he was quite famous. It was quite famous pub.
Well, the O'Maras are still down just towards Killincarrick. They did a beautiful job. We had some
their sons.
Some great owners. The O'Maras were wonderful owners, and then Spenloves came afterwards, and they did an incredible job too. Made it one of the most popular restaurants in Wicklow, if not Ireland. So it certainly had some beautiful golden years in the 70s and 80s that I recall.
But back before O'Mara, and the people used to talk, Frank Everard owned it.
Okay.
That was way back in the 50s.
Yeah. Well, do you know how old it is? Again, I just had a little quick check.
It's
1858, I think it is.
1858.
And it was in Mr. Newell with one L. It was Newell's Hotel originally.
Right.
And then gradually, obviously, over the years, they changed the premises to different owners and different names.
But it was a great place in the 70s and 60s.
You know what? I'm still kind of mildly shocked that it doesn't exist anymore, because to me, it was such a solid part of Delgany and such a big part of Delgany.
Yeah.
I just assumed there would always be, a market for it. I'm always like people who would want to go there.
Well, the Spenloves, say 20 years ago, they worked as a family.
We can have a look inside if you want.
The restaurant itself, you couldn't get into it. It was quite famous in Wicklow in Ireland. It won several awards. But they worked as a family.
Sure,
marvellous, beautiful place.
Perfect job.
Yeah.
And we should say Spenlove, of course, he's down at the harbour now with there's a small cafe and kitchen units and all that kind of stuff. There's a little premises down.
It's been sold. I think there's plans for the place at the moment.
There's plans for the car park, which has been objected to. 70, whatever it is, 22 apartments. Right. There's a hope to take over the car park. The building itself is protected, I hope. I read that it was a historical
protection.
So there's a hope that it won't actually be ever taken away from us, but you never know. We'll have a quick look. It would be just a shell now of what it used to be in regard to being a restaurant, but all the furniture and all the rest is still there.
It's a marvellous place, Paul.
Yeah.
It's in private hands now. It's privately owned.
Is it NAMA? No, it is privately
owned. It's privately owned. But there's
take a quick walk up the hill just so we can see the back of it.
As you say, isn't it for apartments or houses now?
Well, this is the area here that they're hoping to get planning permission for. Just this car park. Right. They feel that they can put the apartments in behind the Wicklow Arms. That obviously will be very lucrative, and that it's
Delgany is.
Well, we've dealt with this before. It's the hottest girl at the party. Everybody's hitting on Delgany.
Delgany.
There you go. But it is tough time because there's so many constant sort of applications. 74 houses, isn't it, up on Bellevue Hill, up beyond your mansion?
There's a dispute going on. Mrs. Corbliss's place.
Okay.
But you see, they're building these places, and yet again,
take a look at
within the area 4 or 5 miles, there's not a cow or a sheep grazing.
Right.
Vegetables or nothing being grown locally, Yeah. So it's all dependency.
Sure.
You know what I mean? By right, it should be where, if you have restaurants, all the food should be brought from about 2 or 3 miles.
That would be ideal, of course.
Ideal, and give people work. You give people work.
Newcastle do a lot of great vegetables, and the Happy Pear now growing a lot. but you would hope that you could, because the appetite for organic and for locally sourced produce is huge.
Yeah,
people
and
like
near.
to feel that that's what they're
Exactly. And then when the one crop goes, you put in another crop, and it's all your people who live in the village now work in Dublin and they commute in and out. And
well, it's the American kind of blueprint of it. It's just convenient, and you can basically ship in truckloads of tomatoes from Chile or wherever it might be, and you just that there's no real kind of
no community.
Bottom line is the price for a lot of people. If you can get your week shopping for a tenner rather than €50, you'll take the tenner option.
But as I say, all the land around for years was fields, etc. in Delgany.
Well, you probably all you'd remember that, wouldn't you?
Well, and cows and shit. Sure, here in this car park here, that was no Belton's.
Belton. But we spoke with him recently. Well, a lot of this, of course, the very nature of growth is that what was a field becomes a house, becomes a housing estate. Yeah. But you've always got to be aware. I don't think we can get through there, so we won't go too far here.
But as I say, the farm used to come to there.
Oh yeah.
Pigs and cows and all, and it was lovely.
Well, again, Noel, we'll link to it. Noel had some wonderful information about that whole area. The way that Matoush had a factory square, it was called. They produced straw hats for the Paris
market. Well, there was a factory over there, and it used to make hats.
Straw hats, yeah.
Would that'd be the 17th century.
Sure.
And then there was a little, as you come to Glen, there was a little green patch.
Yeah. That little triangle, that was a hangout spot for all sorts of fun.
And then there was a man in Killincarrick, I think his name was Joe Murphy.
Okay.
And he used to walk, his cows used to walk through the village.
Yes. The Farleys mentioned him too.
And he used to walk to Glen in the morning. Yeah. And then at about 4 o'clock in the evening, you'll see him walking back. He used to graze them over on the.
Well, he'd go for public kind of spaces that he just wouldn't actually have a field. I think he managed to
common ground. Would it be common ground?
Thing, yeah.
Common ground.
Now we'll wrap up with a little bit of scandal. I love the fact that there was a strong belief for many years that there was a brothel in Delgany active. I don't know if that was.
No,
you don't think so?
No.
Are you
don't
sure? Because I know there's CCTV footage of you.
No, don't mention.
Don't mention the war.
No, there's
don't
nothing.
mention the warts.
No, nothing like that.
Can we not mention your warts? Because they did in the court. They did recognise your warts. So that was what they were.
No, nothing. No, Paul, don't put that in. No.
But I do think there's okay. It's okay to sort of imply that possibly it happened. We don't have to say this person or that person's involved.
No, you're not.
No, we're in the grey area.
Yeah, grey.
We're in a red light area. That's what we are.
Oh, that's grey. No. Oh, Jesus.
So I'll find out. But I know that this happens in life. I remember it being a strong rumour, and we'll just call it a rumour for now. And there was allegedly this and allegedly that. But
Nothing. I know every inch. I never crossed, never heard, or it doesn't interest me anyway. I wouldn't.
Well, no.
But the like of that would be very privately done, I'd say.
Well, I think they have to be
businessmen or something.
It tends to be private when it's illegal.
That's the first I've heard of it now, actually.
Oh, right, because I thought we were talking about it last week, but maybe you're right. So, I would say that you were talking about with the Wicklow Arms. Do you think it'll ever come back to be like a bar again? Do you think they'll be able to...
I think there's plans for it, Paul. There's plans, but as I say, no one really knows.
Well, when we were up at the Delgany Golf Club, we recognised, the introduction of, obviously, the drink driving is a much more difficult, kind of obstacle now for a lot of people, thankfully. Yeah. But also just the fact that you can, buy your night's drink for a tenner down in Little has changed the landscape of Irish socialising. So it's much harder for these places to survive, never mind thrive. So you'd wonder if it would be an ongoing kind of a...
Well, drink driving, that finished...
But it makes you wonder if they would be able to run a obviously with a hotel.
Yeah, but what happens too is you're having no characters now in village.
Right.
Years ago, the pubs were a meeting place.
Sure.
And people would correspond and tell lies and tell. It was a meeting, and everyone knew one another.
Right.
In the pub,
well,
local
to be fair,
pubs.
I think the Horse and Hounds still has that. I mean, you go in there sometimes, maybe the Carrig as well, but there's a sense of you go into the Horse and Hounds sometimes. It looks like Fraggle Rock in there. They all know each other. They're all jumping around.
Well, it's not as popular as it used to be. And the Orchard Inn down in Killincarrick. Right,
there you go.
That's the last of the.
I think those two would still have, though. For me, they still have that.
The what you call it was one of the best, which is closed years ago. Colin Devrick's was up in the Downs.
Well, the Willow Grove is still open. That
Willow Grove, that was that was the last of the family pubs.
Right.
Where it was run by the family.
Yeah.
And you'd come in, and it's like walking into their lounge, and you'd have an old chat.
Yeah.
And everybody knew one another.
Sure.
But now it's completely.
Well, I will say, to be fair, I will say that the Horse still has that, and I think the what the Orchard Inn, the Carrig Inn now, I think they still have it, and I would think the Grove, because of its nearness to a certain group of houses, they would still have a regular thing. I've been up there for some Irish music,
right?
And you kind of got the impression people know each other, which is lovely, when you see it.
But as I say, there's no characters left.
Right.
The new wave now, everyone is independent, and you have electronics and the internet, etc., and it's not creating any characters.
Well, I think there are definitely some mad people around who are having fun.
Yeah, but they're introverted. They're not extroverted. They're
but
kind
a few drinks, there you go. We're all
well, that's the danger.
But
years ago, more people had more freedom, I think.
Yeah.
And it's simpler life, wasn't it?
Simpler,
yeah.
And people until proven guilty, now they're guilty.
Well, people knew one another that little bit better, didn't they?
We should just mention now, as we wrap up, just I always love the fact that the original doorway to the Ludlow's over here.
Yeah.
We had what would be this building here that's sticking out a little bit. Was Dan's, a different Dan's, I think, but maybe related to the Dan's in Greystones. That was a grocery, or was it fish? I don't know.
Well, Dan's was the pub at the beach house.
Right, but here there was a Dan's as well. I have a picture of it. Yeah. No, this part of the building here, yeah. I don't know whether it was, because there's also an incredible photograph of people standing here, and three of the men are holding a large fish between them. I don't know what the hell they're thinking. But also where the Delgany sign is, there's a lady sticking her head out from the doorway.
The old shop, yeah. The old.
So was that the post office, or was it just a shop?
No, post office, I think. That was. You can see just at the.
You can see the outline of
behind the window. That's privately owned.
Right. And what is now? Well, there was Ludlow's as I grew up, just where the lady's jogging.
Well, yeah. And then that's the boundary wall for the old rectory.
Right. Well, this again is all the premises of the.
As I say, in the village itself, you never have a bad accident.
Okay.
Because the corners and things like that seems to slow down the people.
Sure. Well, the traffic jams means no one ever goes
faster
faster
than 5
miles per hour.
Well, there's no speed, exactly. So it's only on the main roads and that.
Sure,
it's speed that kills.
You can't open up here, that's for sure. Yeah. I think you might as well be all in sort of electric wheelchairs the way the
But as I say, I remember poor old Ali Kill.
Oh yeah,
he used to live near you up the lane.
Cart. I got a lift up with him once. It took nearly an hour to get home.
And then there was a man called Mr. Scott. He used to live down in the big, and he had a pony and trap.
Struan Hill, right?
He used to live in Struan Hill, wasn't it?
No,
further on than Struan.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, I know the area all right.
He'd be out on his pony and trap in the 60s. He'd be out on the pony and trap in the 60s.
Well, Alec used to go out, and I think it wasn't a regular thing for him, but he would also use the pony and trap. I remember being on the seats, and he offered me a lift home in his horse and cart. And it would take me 5 minutes to walk up the hill. It took nearly an hour to go around the glen in that horse and cart.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Down at Barry's Bridge, that's where the flyover is.
Yeah.
Barry's Bridge, it was the old name.
But yeah, that's wonderful. I'm going to unearth some of the photographs. I have a great photograph of where we're standing. You can, as I said, you can see the old lady, you can see some kids here, you can see 3 men examining a fish.
As I say, there's no... In the village years ago, each pub had its own characters.
Right.
And... they'd be telling tales, etc. And
this sounds like a horse to me.
But you don't get that in the local. You don't get that now.
I think you do, though. I think you always get a bit of madness here still.
As I say, do you ever get a 14-year-old chap now, or girl, passing and saying that's a lovely day, or how are you keeping?
Sure.
So you have a difference.
Oh yeah, but you can still make the effort yourself, and it does. I do think people are generally friendly. I should mention, we'll wrap up by saying
I'll just tell you my little poem. I have a little short poem.
Holy moly, here we go.
Little short poem.
Nice.
And it goes like this.
No bad language.
If the clouds had eyes, what would they see? If the sea could speak, what would it say? If the trees and grasses could listen, what would they hear? If time was in the past, and time is in the present, and time is in the future, where are we? By Shay Clare.
Hey! I think the answer's Delgany, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure we're in Delgany.
Yeah, I think so. I do little poems. These things come in and out.
Well,
but as I say,
when you're drunk, you might as well use it.
But as I say now, even the seas on the planet are starting to talk. The planet is starting to talk. Right. Some are listening and some are not.
Okay.
In my opinion, there's traces of plastic in humans now that is coming from fishy.
Right.
There's places out in America, North America, South America, islands being built by the amount of plastic that is being built up. So it's a strange planet we're living on, you know.
I should wrap up by saying I'm going to hopefully talk to Patsy Vickers. He just got a Lifetime Achievement Award from Wicklow GAA.
Lovely.
My younger brother Declan.
I have a county championship medal for Newtown.
Nice.
Under 14.
I was going to say anyway. My brother Declan was he was involved obviously with the Wicklow GAA and so forth. And Declan, my brother, played for the under 14s. They won the local championship, whatever the Wicklow championship.
Yeah.
They came here to Delgany. They went to the Horse and Hound, which was Declan's regular, even though he just had won and he was a member of the under 14s.
Well, there was a man.
And the barman. I might finish the story and then we can do a different sentence. But then the barman, delighted for the fact that Declan and his teammates had won, filled their cup with beer for them as a celebration.
Lovely.
That's what you want. That's the sort of character you want.
But I remember there was a man in Newtown called Matt Kelly.
All right.
Back in the 70s and 60s, and he took interest in the fellas in Delgany, and he used to get us to go up and play football for them because there was nothing in Delgany, only the golf course. We never had a sports field.
Sure.
Back in our young day, you know, Paul.
We had that football field we'll call it up your road.
Mr. Carbles used to give us. We played soccer, great soccer players.
He could have played for Ireland if he'd stayed.
Well, Johnny Robbie came up the odd time and played. Eamon Darcy played the soccer. And Johnny Robbie went on to be the scrum half for Ireland in rugby. And he was a good soccer player.
Yeah. All that violence in football helped him.
We were camped in England one time in Devon.
All right.
And we played a local team. And we kind of bet them. We kind of. That's all the gardeners going home. They're all the gardeners going.
Off time. The rain, you see, they give up.
They're going by in their marks.
That's it.
That's nice, little chat. Don't mention that other thing, Paul.
Don't mention it, but you told me you had been in that brothel.
No, I don't know what.
You told me you had great times. You said you had a membership
Never
card
heard of.